This is Matt Welsh with Spiritual Media Blog, and today we have a very special guest, Viki King. Viki King is well known for her wise counsel to luminaries in the entertainment industry, as well as consultant to many people all over the world in all walks of life. But today we are here to talk about her new book, How to Be the Hero of Your Own Life, a unique autobiography. Viki, thank you so much for being here with us today.
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled, Matt, because I know you now 20 years. 20
I
years.
know, I know. It is amazing. Yeah, I'm Viki and I met 20 years ago on a spiritual cinema circle teleconference call. And we've maintained that friendship and relationship since then. It's pretty special. So it's very excited to have you here. Um, so let's just dive right in. At the very beginning of your book, you talk about this idea of sacred contracts and the time before you were born. So I guess, from a big picture perspective, give us a little context about the book, where this is coming from, and then a little bit more about this idea of sacred contracts.
Yes, of course. So the book starts before life and it ends after life, and it addresses every age in between. And we all have a call to earth before we get here. It's like we're announced, do you want to go back? And then we sit for our original agreement of what's going on for, what we want for this life. And we all do that, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we remember that when we get here on a conscious level, but we certainly remember it, within, because we don't have the paperwork, but what we do have is it's encoded in us, so that those are the things that we work out in this lifetime. And so then there's many clauses in the sacred contract where we make those decisions.
And tell us a little bit more about this. Are these sacred contracts, are these like agreements to have certain personality traits? Are they agreements to have certain relationships? Are they agreements to have certain life events happen?
Yes, all of that, all of that.
Okay.
Like for instance, there's a meeting of the three, and meaning that it's your mother, father, and you come up with the way that you're relating to each other. Like for instance, my father was an alcoholic, and so then I had to agree to that before I came in and look at, well, did I want to follow through with it? Did I want to be an alcoholic too? Or was I going to be the one that stopped it, the lineage there, or any of the iterations in between? And so we all have those choices that we make, and personal characteristics, certainly. Are you fiercely independent, or are you want to be rich, or what do you help everybody? What are some of the personal characteristics that you would go in with, and how you would utilize them for your life?
Okay. This is a really fascinating topic, but you mentioned that you had agreed have your father be an alcoholic. I know this is probably a sensitive subject for a lot of people, but I mean, tell me about that. Did that happen? I mean, if you don't want to
Yes,
share,
he
you don't
was
want to
definitely an
share.
alcoholic. And
Okay.
also, I had alcoholics on both sides of my lineage.
Okay.
And I decided during the original agreement, I'm going to be the one that doesn't drink. So I am the one that doesn't drink. And I'm happy with my choice, and I'm happy that I did that. And it wasn't an effort for me. It was just a decision. It was a choice. It's like why I'm talking about the title being How to Be the Hero in Your Own Life. It's your choices, and it's your choice in every moment. It can be something very simple like, well, I don't think I like the taste of beer, instead of, oh no, I can't, have, do you see? So you make a small, quiet, easy choice, and you can do a lot of those.
I appreciate your honesty, sharing that. I mean, was that a choice that you made early in your life? Like, did you ever have a drink, or did you just know, hey, this is not for me?
Oh, I can have alcohol. I mean, I like champagne. on occasion.
Okay.
I happen to have a bottle of sake in my cabinet, and I realized it's been in there for like 6 years. Been six years, and every now and then I'll have the little sake cup thing. I'll enjoy a
Yeah.
sumptuous glass of sake, which is like that big. And I'm happy that's how I am. It doesn't, but a lot of our choices are made in the original agreement. Like, for instance, I was there, as we all are, at the conception, but I said, well, I don't want to be by the sex part. Just come in, and see the sperm and and how the egg come together. And I wrote about that we can see how this particular sperm, which is, one in 100 million, meets up with this particular egg. And it's just astonishing, it's like how you see their personalities come together. And I saw my mother was dynamic and bedazzling. And my father was this sweet, tender, sensitive hearted, person. I could see that. It's like, oh, here he comes now. Here comes the sperm. Here he comes. He's come, not any of these others, because that wouldn't make me. It had to be that particular configuration.
I mean, it was so magical. I mean, reading about that, you even like described this like burst of life and this matter becoming energy, and you even do it with a sense of humor, and but it just brings like the awe of life coming into it. And so I'm also another thing that I was curious about when I was reading, and that you mentioned, you said you were there at your birth. I mean, is this a memory that you have, or was this like you're imagining this, or when you say you were there, how did you access this information?
Well, I was born with full remembrance, and most kids are. By that I mean we knew where we came from. We knew that we
Okay.
were, a spirit life before we were a human life, and we can remember that early on, but we forget along the way because it's not really convenient to have those consciousnesses in the world. Now it's becoming more and more interesting for people to be intuitive, to be aware, to have clairvoyance, and they want it. But when I came in, that was 80 years ago. When that was not, it's like there was a consciousness. There was people, living in the 50s. So it was a whole different convenience. It was inconvenient to be savvy. It was inconvenient to remember those things. But if you go back, and people can call me now. I got a phone. I'm at this age. Um, I can help you with recollecting what your original agreement was, and your birth was. And birth is an incredible metaphor for life, and it gives you complete information about how you're going to be able to cope with the life that you are going to have at your birth. Like, for instance, oh, if you want to say something.
Yeah, I know. I was wondering that. So, like, what if somebody had a really traumatic birth, like their APGAR score was really low, they had trouble breathing, but they were okay and they're healthy. I mean, what would that mean?
Well, it can mean a random of things, and it's always different for each person, whatever is, personalized to them. That could mean that this was a kid that needed some real oomphy dumphy, some real toughness, some real immediate skill sets to how they were going to survive. That could, or it could mean somebody who was a problem to the family, and and always there was always trauma, that is going to be going on. It's interpreted completely individually to each, but you can look back at your birth. Any of us can, and people do. People rebirth. People go back and want to kind of put their choo-choo back on the track in a way that gets it resolved, gets it healed for them. So it's a very mighty moment in everyone's life.
Yeah, that's pretty.
What's beautiful about the book is, um, as people are reading my story, of course, they're reflecting on themselves because that's what humans do. And as they're reflecting on themselves, they begin to heal and change all kinds of things that they didn't even know were, off the track.
Like what? What are some of the, can you, do you mind sharing some of those examples without
So,
giving their
yeah,
identity?
I mean, like every age, like for instance, at age 6.5, chapter 6.5, I talk about what to do about Big Bully Billy, 6.5 years old, and I solved the bully issue there as a 6-year-old. Because I just said, "Oh, big bully, you're not that scary. You're just scared." And that was the end of it. And and so people can look at, if they were bullied when they were 6, well, what could they go back and do to make them the hero instead of the victim of that circumstance? And they begin to start reflecting on all this. And this is what it is to become conscious. And as you're conscious, you make those choices again and again for every
Yeah.
age.
Yeah, I love the title of your book, How to Be the Hero of Your Own Life. I mean, I know that that's what your book is about, but what does that title mean, and how can we be the hero of our own life?
Whatever. I have a line in there. There was one of the chapters where there was a big, event that happened in my life, a traumatizing event. But I say in the line, I think something like, um, did I just not be mortified, or did I choose to not be victimized? And it's your choice. It's being a human is totally perception, and you make your perception in every moment. So you can get up off the couch and do exercises, but maybe you choose not to. Maybe you choose to want to be on the couch until you're 352 pounds. That's a choice. And so you can begin to look at the possibility of bringing your life into your own power and not be powerless anymore.
So yeah, I think I hear you saying like looking for ways to really make a positive impact in your life to experience it better. And you also write one thing you wrote in there, if you don't mind me reading it, just one sentence, is you said, "You will naturally be a big help to others. You always have been. This time be a big help to yourself too." And I think that was, I don't know why that really touched me. Maybe that was something that I reflected on, but what did that mean to you, and how can people apply that to their lives?
Uh, I think that, I wrote another book, Beyond Visualization, and I wrote it a lot on airplanes because I was traveling all over at that time. And I use the metaphor of, you put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put it on your child. Well, I got pushback from that. That was in 1992. And people thought, oh, that's selfish, and that's a bad mother that would do that with her child. And it was really interesting. But now, as you notice, everybody uses that metaphor.
Yeah.
And if you'll notice also, the relationship to that metaphor is an agreement, dynamic, like understanding, oh, that's the way you help yourself and everybody is. You've got to be ready in your own self to be qualified to, reach out and be able to help somebody else effectively.
I I have totally noticed that, with my in my life, the times when I'm like the kindest and the most generous, they're usually after a period when I've done something nice for myself.
Ah,
And the times when I like kind of like be snippy or just kind of say something I wish I hadn't said, they're usually times when, like, I'm very stressed out and I hadn't, like, done the self-care activities that I know I should be doing. I mean, it sounds like that's what you're
it's
referring to and alluding to.
real simple
Yeah.
stuff. And more now that we're getting into 2025, everyone must be individuated to their own self-care in such a way that then they can be of service to others. And one of the best, juicy things to help yourself is to be of service to others. But the way to do it is you gotta really, really have your chops ready in your own self to be able to do that.
And yeah, this, I think I want to go back to that idea of a sacred agreement, because I feel like this is probably an agreement that people have with themselves. And I know you said you can help people access that one-on-one, but are there other ways that people can get in touch with some of their sacred agreements that they might have?
Oh, yeah, you mean with themselves or sacred
Yeah,
with
yeah.
themselves? Yeah, the more you know yourself, the 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 more joyful life on earth is. And it's your one and only job is to just do the deep work. Get to know, be conscious, awaken in your idea of who you are, because you came and you've got a talent, and we need that talent. We need for you to have your piece of the puzzle, because if you don't show up with your piece, there's a big hole in the big picture. Why would you want to do that? Just like, oh, this is, this is where Jeffy's, talent should have been, but he didn't want to show up for it. He's sitting on the couch. See,
Oh, okay. So I'm hearing two things there. One, paying attention to where our talents are, and then two, taking the time to develop those.
absolutely. Because that's what you came here to offer. You must offer your talents. And your talent is always, it's always there. It's the most amazing thing. People ask all the time, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? Well, it's right there. Pay attention to yourself and you will see it. And as you see it, then you might want to like put a sledgehammer on top of it, like, oh, well, but I can't be an artist because I can't make any money being an artist. Well, then why would you have gotten the talent of art? Don't do that on yourself. Don't stop your own self. Follow the way, follow the way, follow the way. And it will then support you because you're supporting with your talent in the world and with your service.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. I mean, people come to me as a psychologist and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life. And when people run into those things, what if they just say like, I don't have talents, or or like you said, my
Not true.
talent.
You don't get
Yeah.
into to Hollywood, to Earth, if you don't, if you don't have a specific talent that is required and needed for our times. That's why you're here. I think of it as, those mirror balls, big mirror ball, and then they got all the reflections. Well, that's it. Each one of us is one of those reflections off the mirror ball. And we have to come here and reflect that particular talent that we came in with. And everybody knows what it is. A lot of times they don't want to acknowledge it to themselves because then you got to do something about it. And it scares people. Like, oh, and here's an interesting thing that happens too is with the talent, you also have the thing that scares you the most. Because what that does is you have to break through the thing that scares you the most so that the talent can prevail.
And how, I mean, how do we do that? And I'm
That's
glad
why
you
they
brought up.
come to you.
I know, I know. I mean, I have my own theories by this. I agree with you. I think it's I think we just need to put one foot forward and keep moving forward, and then taking the time to develop that. But I'm glad you mentioned the money piece, because yeah, I mean, I think some people are like, man, I'm not going to make any money as a ballroom dancer, or an artist, and so what's the point of me, spending, $100, taking lessons and learning this. And I mean, you're in Hollywood, so I'm sure you probably heard that from actors and writers. So how do you help people deal with like the financial aspect of it, or failure, which probably go hand in hand?
Money issues are never about money. They are always about love. And so then if you don't love yourself enough to explore your ballroom dancing talents, then the thing to look at is self-love, not dancing.
Yeah.
So it's choices again. You make your decision. You make your decision in every moment about everything.
I like that. And and I want to kind of go back to something you started out earlier, talking about your dad who was an addict, and I know you have a chapter in there. Chapter 8 was how to love an addict. I mean, what role does that play in our sacred contracts and our life purpose when we have family members who are addicts or struggling with addiction?
Uh, well, I can talk about mine. In my instance, I'm the Lone Ranger. I will come into town, you know, do take care of everything and then ride out, you know. And one of the things that's valuable for me in my life was don't do that with everybody. You can certainly you give your service, but also you have to be discerning about no pearls before swine. You understand this as a psychologist. You want to be careful about how you extend, or do you overextend help to somebody, and it doesn't help them if there's overextension of that. And so I had somebody, not my father, but another generation of a person in my family who was addicted, and we couldn't find him. He was gone. So so then to be in relationship to somebody who we don't know, if he's dead on the curb, if he's in jail, we didn't know. We didn't know what it was. And so that was something for the other members of the family to be able to live with, see what you want to do. What is your relationship to that circumstance? And so that's what, that was a beautiful um, thing to experience. And I have to say that he found us, he's back.
Oh,
And that's one of the treasures of my life, that he, wasn't there. And I was glad he wasn't there when he wasn't, because it wasn't mine to deal with somebody else's issue. They had to clean it up and then come back.
well, I mean that sounds like that was challenging for you, but you were able to work through that. And I mean, how about people who like the addict doesn't leave, like they're just part of their family. They show up to family functions, and or they they raise the child and then they stay in their lives, and they don't want to cut them out, or they might not have a choice to cut them out of their lives. I mean, how do you love someone like that, and how does that tie into your sacred contracts?
So I did a huge conference, and it was about addiction. And meanwhile, my person in my family, we could, he had an issue with it. And so then I came back after the conference to the hotel room, and I thought, I'm not getting on the plane until this whole feeling leaves my body. If because you can, if somebody's in your family and they're in jeopardy, it's heavy in you. So that it's got to get out of my body. And so there was a big tub there, and I just sat in the tub, and I thought, when the time comes, I'm going to pull the plug and it's going to drain out, and then I can get on the airplane. And that's what I did. And then it was fine. After that, he was there, and I could, read you like a little bit of that
Yeah, please do.
happened when I got on the airplane. Let me see if I can find that. Um, here it goes. See, I don't know. I'm not finding it right now. Um, okay, here it is. Then I got on the airplane. As I boarded the plane, my body can breathe. I feel the lightness of life unencumbered. 10,000 fresh floating ideas come alive. Such freedom, such joy that was there just under the weight of the thing. It was lifted and life showed up. It is lifted, and now as the plane lifts off the ground, this is my prayer. I love you with a transparent love, not influencing you with my emotions, desires, or plans for you. I love you with neutral love. I love you where you are. I just won't help you to stay there. I am free to feel my own feelings and make my own choices about how I wish to live, and you are free to choose your choices. I love you. I release you. We are both free.
Oh, that's really touching. And I like that. So it's a combination of taking care of yourself and still, loving the person, but not necessarily, condoning their behavior. Um, and you mentioned this idea of the love between the family members. That was actually, I think, one of the most touching parts of your book was the last chapter when you write about death, and how much love you had surrounding you and how you could feel that love, even as you were transitioning. And I even just know, and as I'm saying this, I know some of the language and the verbiage is probably sounds strange, but talk about that final chapter, that you write about death.
So, obviously, this is a unique autobiography because it starts
Yeah.
before birth, ends after life, and I'm alive yet.
Right. That's why I was like, I
I
noticed
know.
when I'm talking about your chapter, I'm like, wait, this doesn't sound right.
I'm dead.
Like, yeah.
And that what that is downward causation. What's downward causation, you ask? Downward causation is that you create from the forward, the future backward. Like for instance, let's say you don't want to go to jail in the future. Therefore, don't rob the bank today. See how this goes. So it's completely connected in your present choice. You are in full power of your future for your present choice. So what I did with was my death was I made a conscious death. And I believe that we are all going to a really, really revolution of conscious death. I don't believe in diminishing progression. I don't believe in, that you sit there and you wither and start to drool. You can if you want to, but you don't need to. And that with conscious death, you can leave when you're finished here.
Like,
And the body can be left. In other words, I think all of our bodies last us a lifetime. It's our lifetime, which could mean you're 3 years old or you're 20 years old or whenever it is that you can be finished here in your consciousness and then leave with your body, intact, pretty vibrant. I feel pretty good. I'm 80. I mean, not yet. In next month, I'm 80.
oh, well,
I'm
happy
only
early birthday.
79 and a half.
Um, yeah, and just talk a little bit about, what are your beliefs or experiences with the afterlife? I mean, it sounds like I mean, the body obviously stays here, but the spirit and the love, that never dies. Is that what I'm hearing?
Um, that's my, that's where I'm going.
Okay.
People might be choosing other things, but
Okay.
I'm real excited about what's expanded beyond here. And
Yeah.
I'm working on it now. I have lots of things going on now that I know that I'm going to continue with. And with, I mean, they're already set up and deep projects that I'm actually working on for here, for Earth and for beyond.
Wow, that's really cool. I mean, I would love to hear more about them, but they might be private, which I totally understand. But from a big picture, that kind of did strike a chord. That when I read that last chapter about death, it made me realize, like, wait, what's really important to me right now?
Mhm.
Like, who are my loved ones that, like, I want, to carry that love with me here and forever. And then I actually just, like, I picked up the phone. I called my wife afterwards. I just was like, I love you. Like, so I said,
Oh, I
I mean, I was
love
just like so touched. And she's like, I'm working out now. Why are you calling me? I was like, I don't want anything. I just wanted to tell you that I love
it.
you. And
Oh,
so
that's
yeah, like, yeah, that book was that chapter really made me realize, like, what's important to me right now, and to let people know that. So that was really cool.
Well,
Um,
that's it. That's the beautiful thing is when you when you let yourself be in the present, wow, it's a present. You know,
yeah,
it really
truly.
is it just feels so good. If you're ever stressed and like you're going too fast and you're like, I gotta go for a walk, and then you're
Right.
walking fast and um if you can just maybe if you could take one little breath or something, if you could reach joy, if you could just reach the present moment, ah, then you're safe. You're there.
Yeah,
This is, this just opens up everything for you.
right.
And that would be the best and highest task if you're like in, big stress. It's like, no, you don't do those 10 things. You do you. Take yourself back to a peaceful place.
Do you have any tools that help you to get into the present moment when you're feeling rushed or kind of scattered?
I think anything that comes to you, I mean, it's something like a really simple, like wash your hands very
Yeah.
slowly, in warm water with lather. Notice something. Notice like your hand. Oh, look at that's the top of my hand. Just really, 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 really the simplest things are the things that will get you back to where you can be sensible and you can feel wonderful and you can call somebody and say that you love them. That's when, because it's like if you call somebody and you're rushed, it's like, oh, I have to tell you that I love you. It's like,
Right.
not really appealing.
That's true. Um, yeah, those are all good tips. And another, another topic that you touch upon in your book is this idea of like free will. And so I always wonder that when people talk about ideas about sacred contracts or just like a life plan. I mean, can you talk a little bit about the relationship of free will, or just in general, like how much of our life is in our control and how much of it is out of our control?
Well, your choice. You know, you can have a lot of things out of your control, but it's your choice that you have it out of your control.
Okay. Okay.
Because you want the secret to life. I'll tell you the secret to life. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Life works. That's the secret to life. Life works. And what happens is whenever we're in a real pickle, it's because we've jerked it around. We were trying to make life work where how we think it was supposed to work. It doesn't work that way. It works like it works. It's like, if you, it's like, oh, please God, I want red shoes. So you think, well, in order to have red shoes, I've got to get my red paint out and I got to paint the shoes. And that's not the, that's not the way to red shoes. The way to red shoes is say, okay, I want the red shoes. And then you get an idea and it's like, oh, maybe I'll go over here. And then, oh, look at that. And then your red shoes will come dancing to you because that's how life works.
So just more kind of like allowing some of these inspired ideas or intuitions to flow through us and be open to that and following that to see where that takes us.
Right. And if you want something, be clear about it and be clearer and clearer. You tends to be like it's a little Merkle Durkle. And then, it comes down more clear, 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 clear. And as you clear those things, you begin to start seeing like where the pathway is. It's never how we think the way to get to our dream. It's never that way because if it was, we would have already been there.
Right, right.
So a
And then
dream comes to you how you how the best and highest way that it can come to you. And it's you don't you'd fight it. You fight it because, oh well, I'm not supposed to do that. I'm supposed to do this over here. Something that I did when I had moccasins when I was in high school, and I had a torn piece of paper that I wrote on it, go directly to your dream, and I put it in my shoe. And I began to realize, oh, directly to my dream is not the way that I think. I go from here to there. That's not directly. it's, I gotta go this way, and then you turn this way, and this, oh, there it is. But I needed these skill sets in order
Yeah.
to land on my dream.
Yeah, so I agree, and I'm wondering, how much of this should we just kind of like surrender, let go, and be just like open to wherever these inspired ideas take us, versus like how much should we like feel like, oh, I've got to make this happen, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. I mean, I think I hear you saying like leaning more towards just like being open and receptive to whatever inspired idea or intuition comes to us.
So, what people usually set out to, if there's a dream, oh, I want this dream to come true. So then oh, I got to do this, and I've got to do that, and I've got to do that. The way to have a dream come true is that you become that who is dreaming that. In other words, right now, like, say, for instance, let's say you want to be an archer, and if you've never done it, then, you probably wouldn't be proficient at it yet. So, okay, maybe being an archer means you've got to get the equipment. Maybe you got to, learn how to strengthen your fingers. So those things are things that you might have on your list. So then become the archer, become who that which is going to do the arching. Because, for instance, if you didn't ready yourself, then if you got there, the opportunity for that, this is really interesting. A very famous guitar player gave me a guitar and offered to give me lessons. And it's like, oh my God, that's not my dream. But I know a kid who that is his dream, and he's really got talent there. So I put them together, and it was just the most wonderful thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, well, no, thank you for sharing that. And I mean, each of your topic, I feel like we could spend a lot of time talking on. I mean, are there any other topics or chapters in your book that we haven't gotten to that you feel like is
Well, of course,
important?
because there's a chapter for every age, the book, including the womb, and, being in the womb and birth, as you were saying, all the way to death. Yeah, it's every chapter. So people can look up, they will do this, of course, you look up your age right away, and see. And of course, my life was completely different than anybody else's life who would be reading it. And yet there there are the stages and phases and ages that come along, that are encoded for everybody. So even though they might be looking at something that happened for me when I was 15, then people start thinking, oh, what was I doing when I was 15? Oh, yeah, I remember that thing. See, so then their whole life begins to open up for them. It's interesting. It's like, I tested this out early on. And one of the things was, the um, women who had trouble with their mothers. And I read for them a chapter that I had about my mother. I got along with my mother wonderfully. I loved her very much, and she loved me. So we didn't have an issue. So when women with an issue with their mothers read my chapter, they didn't have an issue with their mothers anymore,
Oh, wow. That's wild.
because they want to be the hero of their own life. So they got to see
Um,
the pathway of being no
yeah.
issue. And they got to see that. And when they got to see that, right away, they started picking out different stories about their mother. Well, she was really, we sewed together. Where did
I,
that come,
yeah.
and it supersedes then the story of victim.
I that reminds me, I think one time we had a conversation about how sometimes that happens in movies. Like if you watch a movie where you see someone heal a relationship, then it helps them heal that relationship in their life too.
Yeah, and
Um,
that's why people want it, they love stories. People
Yeah.
love stories because they want to know, well, how'd they do that? James Bond, you mean he didn't give up? He didn't give up. He's had all that atrocity happening, but he, just like you think, oh, he's going to die in the next second, and then he gets out of it. How do you do that? I got to come and see the next James Bond and, figure that out for myself. That's what stories are for people.
Yeah, it's very powerful. It's very powerful. And yeah, I know I mean, any other stories from your life that you feel like you'd want to share with us today? Because I mean, I know you have done some very amazing things. I mean, any that you feel particularly compelled to share with us?
Hmm. It's interesting. You're in Evanston, and I think that when I found I was estranged from my father for like 25 years, and I found him, and he was in like one of those human place, institution things. And I think that's next to isn't that the hospital that you are in Evanston? And it's next to
So
right on that
was he?
street.
I mean, there are, yeah. I mean, there are. Was he was he like in an inpatient psychiatric hospital?
I don't know if it was psychiatric, it was probably for alcoholics,
Oh, yeah. I mean, there are different
people who
treatment
had
centers around
issues.
here, but
Yeah,
he was in Evanston.
yeah.
Wow, that's a really small world.
Yes.
Um,
And so then there you are healing
yeah.
people. And that's where I found him. And it took 25 years to find him.
Wow. So how did you track him down? How did you find him?
Finally, well, in my era, it was phone books. There wasn't an internet. And so
Okay.
I kept, looking, finding, because I really believe in finishing your unfinished business, you know.
Yeah.
And so I went and I was in Chicago and I had a number and I didn't know who the number was, but I knew there was somebody who knew him. And I called and it was his brother. So that would have been, it was my uncle. But the man was not uncle to me. He didn't
Yeah.
talk uncly. He just said, oh, well, he's over here, blah, 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 blah. And he hung up the phone. So now I had his number, where he was. After 25 years, now I had it.
Oh my goodness.
And
So
so I think I have to go now. I have to go.
yeah.
I have to go to Evanston. I was at the Four Seasons or something on Michigan Boulevard. So, you could tell that it was intense for me because I didn't even ask the cab driver how much it was going to cost to
Oh my
get all the way
goodness.
there.
Wow. Jeez.
It was pouring rain, and I went, and so it's the story of finding him.
Wow. That's so walk me through that moment when you first see him after not seeing him for that long. I mean,
Well, they said he would come down, and I got there, it was gothic. It was pouring, and it was
jeez.
midnight. But I went anyway, and I went in, it was like a cage thing, and the night watchman was kind of sleepily, drearily there. And I, told them who I wanted to see, and somehow they all thought, I think, it's because I was on a mission, so they, okay, all right,
Yeah.
they said, well, he'll be coming down the elevator. So I was standing at the elevator and sweat was pouring down my arms like in puddles, in my hand.
Jeez.
Just and I was standing as straight could be because the elevator's doors and there was going to be this guy. And something in me settled, something in me like a big pillar. I always felt it in me, but it just kind of went vook, and it went like up in the sky and down to the center of the earth. It just went whoosh, and
Wow.
it just solidified even more so. And then the elevator doors open, and I looked just like my mother, except for my eyes, and there were my eyes looking back at me.
That's pretty amazing. It sounds like it was a
It
very
was,
healing moment for probably
yeah, it was, and I don't know if he knew that it was he. I don't know if he knew it was me. He probably thought it was my mother. I don't know. I feel like he probably had uh
dementia maybe.
no, I think shock treatment at the
Oh,
time, that was
oh,
more what
yeah.
happened because he was an alcoholic all his life. So, it takes its toll, definitely.
Yeah. Um,
So I
on
learned two things. I mean, we had our beautiful visit and then I left and I knew two things. I knew nothing of it was my fault and that I could do anything.
yeah, yeah. I mean, good for you. I mean, and then I mean, I imagine on some level too, that was like incredibly powerful moment for your dad too.
Yeah, and he might not have even know, he was very, he kept saying, "You're perfect, you're perfect." And it's like, oh, that's why it took me 25 years, because I don't need him to say I'm perfect.
Yeah,
But I think one of the things was I realized that I had waited for him to find me, but he was waiting for me to find him.
that's really touching. I mean, good for you for reaching out to him because, yeah, I mean, as a psychologist, I do work with a lot of parents and they feel very like disheartened that their kids have not reached out to them. And so it's like, you would think, oh, the parent should reach out to the kid, but if a kid reaches out to the parent, that's gonna mean a lot to them.
Well, somebody's got to reach out to somebody because otherwise
Yeah.
you're gonna, you're gonna hang with unfinished business.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
And exactly. And I mean, and you mentioned unfinished business. It sounds like that's you mentioned earlier doing some like consulting work and people can work with you. It sounds like does a lot of your work deal with helping people work through some of their unfinished business?
Yes,
Oh,
we go from where they are in, whatever they are interpreting what the problem is. It's never the problem, by the way. Because it used to be that people would come with their scripts because I was a script,
oh.
and then they left the scripts at home because it wasn't about the script, always about yourself or your family, and but it's never about what you think it is. That's usually the presenting issue, but
Uh,
it's a way to cover up the real thing.
Yeah. And if people wanted to work with you or get a hold of you, what's the best way for people to get a hold of you or work with you?
They can email is Viki King author at
Okay.
Gmail, and it's Viki.
Okay.
Viki.
Um, and then how about your book? Is that available now for people?
It's not, it's going to be published next month.
Okay.
So people can also go to that email, and if they would like to be on the list, so that I can tell them when it comes out,
Okay.
I would be happy to do that.
And then when it does come out, is it on your website and Amazon or where's the best place people
Um,
can get it?
Probably Amazon, probably. It's
Okay.
good. Barnes and Noble,
Yeah.
all the usual places.
Right, right. Well, yeah, I mean, Vicky, we've covered a lot. Is there any area that we didn't get to that you were hoping to get to today?
Well, I think whatever we say is what was appropriate to say. You're a wonderful interviewer, by the way.
Oh, thanks. That really means a lot to me.
You are. I mean, don't you see? You know that, don't you?
I I'm starting to realize that, but it does help to hear. I mean, I do get really amazing guests like you to, spend an hour with me, and that always means a lot to me. So, but thank you. I sincerely appreciate that.
So I listened to Lisa
Oh
yesterday.
yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. The Lisa yoga at Comcast.net. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes. Lisa, she runs a yoga studio in Evanston, and I've been going there for the past couple years.
Oh,
But then I just kind of got to know her a little bit more the last, couple months because, I told her about my podcast, and then, decided to have a conversation with her about like yoga, money, yoga, relationships, and
wonderful.
her
It was
life
wonderful.
work. Yeah, it's really fascinating. So, but I'm glad you enjoyed that. So yeah, thank you for those kind words of encouragement and support. That's
So,
really nice of you.
for all of us, be on the lookout for the sparks of light people, because
Yeah.
they're doing holding the space and doing the work for all of us, and we're then getting to be inspired and doing the work for all of us also. Everybody is in on it. Everybody's in on it. And there's not one person in the whole wide world that didn't say, oh, could I come in at this time in life, and be this age and this particular thing doing that. And everyone now, and as you know, as I say in the book, it's like these times are humdingers for humans, and we all
You,
need,
yeah, you said the world has gone rogue.
yeah. And obviously you see that it has, and that's correct. It's supposed to go upside down so that it can right itself and go right side up.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I wanted to ask you, and so I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, what do you see as the direction of the world? Are you optimistic, pessimistic? It's
So
just
here's what, the more pessimistic it is that, see, when there is chaos, chaos creates order. So as you see chaos, you see it as something that's going to go up right side up, because it's way upside down. And every system has to be upside down now. And it is, it's, being, and you see, it's so interesting. You watch television and you see rubble all over the world because of war, or because of fire here in LA, or because of earthquakes. You see all this rubble. Don't you think that's interesting? That we're experiencing that as a whole world of people, because everything is then going to be turned right side up in a new way. Like in Los Angeles, and the Palisades, all that, those houses are burned away. And so then there's this hunk of land that's going to be there. And these are people who know how to succeed, and they're a very strong community. So what happens for that is, here's the opportunity to look at, what does a city that's sustainable look like? How do we go forward from here? What's the way that we can live in a way that works with Earth? And the Earth is just the most amazing thing, is that everything, there's no waste. Everything is transformed into the next thing that is food for some other creature. And there's it's just remarkable how the balance of nature works. So we're way out of balance, so we need to come right into balance, and that's what is happening for 2024, 2025.
yeah.
Everybody, I was just going to say hang on, but I don't think it's hang on. I think it's let let go, expand,
Yeah.
and to the new possibilities that we can all contribute.
Yeah, that's yeah, I agree that I think we do see this chaos, but in the midst of this chaos, you see a lot of very determined people and people who want to do good. So yeah, hopefully
One of
that
the
will.
things that's displaying in Los Angeles now with the fires is strong community. There's way, 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 way help. There's everybody coming with water and food and
Yeah.
clothes and everything. Um, so that kind of way that we learn to have a new reality.
Yeah, that's I agree, and I think you do see that. Um well, Vicky, I think that that's a very uplifting and inspiring note to end this conversation on. Um
Thank you, Matt, so much. You're so dear, and I just,
oh
appreciate this is wonderful what you do. Just great.
oh thank you so much. I really appreciate that. All right, Vicky, you have a good day. It is good. Well, we stick around for a minute, but I'll stop this now. So thank you again.
Okay.